Hello everyone. Now it's just 4, 5, or maximum 7 days left to CSIR NET exam. So I would like to just quickly skim through evolution portion. So let's start. Louis Pasteur's test of spontaneous generation, abiogenesis, experiment of this, using meat. Open container, formation of maggots in meat. Then cork sealed container, no formation of maggots in meat. Then covered one, no formation of maggot in meat. This Pasteur's test of spontaneous generation, broth is boiled, broth remains free of microorganisms, curved neck is removed, microorganisms grow in broth. The next important aspect is chemical evolution, Oparin and Haldane theory, Haldane soup, simple molecules, complex molecules, building blocks. Simple molecules, complex molecules, building blocks, aggregates, coesovates and microspheres, then protocells, pro-primitive stage before formation of true cell. Microsphere, so Haldane soup, simple molecules, complex molecules, building block, aggregate, coesovates and microspheres, protocells, primitive stage before the formation of a true cell. Protocells plus nucleic acid gives self-replicating system, a cell. Next, chemical evolution, Urey-Miller experiment. In 1953, Stanley Miller and Harold Urey tested the Oparin-Haldane hypothesis using the conditions of prebiotic earth. To vacuum pump, electrodes, spark discharge, water out, condenser, water in, water droplets, water containing organic compounds, liquid water in trap. Theories of evolution, Lamarckism, new needs. The change in the environment factor like light, temperature, medium, food, air, or migration creates no new need for the organism. To fulfill these needs, living organisms have to decide which result in change in habitat and habitat of the organism. Use and disuse of organs. Continuous use of certain organs makes them active and strong, while disuse makes them inactive, reduced, and ultimately it disappears. Inheritance of acquired characters. Lamarck believed that every generation have acquired new characteristics which are transmitted to the new generation. Continuous use of certain organ makes them active and strong, while disuse makes them inactive, reduced, and ultimately it disappears. Then inheritance of acquired characters. Lamarck believed that every generation have acquired new characters which are transmitted to the new generation. After few generations, new species is formed. Lamarck's giraffe, short-necked ancestor, stretches to reach levels and stretches to reach higher leaves, long-necked descendants. Use of disuse of organs. Darwinism. Rapid modification. The reproductive potential of living organism is much more than actual survival. Example, paramecium reproductive rates. Then limited food and space. Rapid modification. The reproductive potential of living organisms is much more than actual survival. Paramecium reproductive rates. Limited food and space. Struggles of existence. Intraspecific and interspecific competition. Then variation. Survival of the fittest. Neo-Darwinism. According to Neo-Darwinism, adaptation results from multiple forces and the natural selection is one of them. The ultimate character results due to the interaction of the determinants as well as the interaction between organisms and the environment during development. Darwin's finches. Evidence of evolution. Homologous organs. Those organs are similar in their basic structure or origin but differ in their looks and function. They show very light modification which lead to divergent type of evolution. Four-limbed invertebrates, leg in insects, mouth parts of insects. Man, cheetah, bat wing, whale, butterfly wing, bat, bird wing. Analogous organs. Those are the organs which differ in their basic structure or origin. Those are the organs which differ in their basic structure or origin but are similar in their look and function. It is convergent type of evolution. So homologous organs are similar in their basic structure and origin but differ in their looks and function. They show very light modification which lead to divergent type of evolution. Four-limbed invertebrates, leg in insects, mouth part of insects. Then analogous organs, those are the organs which differ in their basic structure or origin but are similar in their look and function. It is convergent type of evolution. Wing of birds and wings of insects. Connecting links. The living organism which possesses characteristics of two different group of animals or taxonomic categories, such animals indicate transitional forms of organic evolution. Then missing links. Missing links are organisms possessing characters of two different taxonomic categories. Or Ornithorhynchus, duck-billed platypus, reptiles and mammals. Then this one Archaeopteryx. Virus, Euglena, Peripatus. Virus, non-living and living. Euglena, animals and plants. Peripatus, Annelida and Arthropoda. Neoplina, Annelida and mollusca. Chimera or Chimeria, bony fishes and cartilaginous fishes. Proteospongia, Proterospongia, Protozoa and Porifera. Then Echidna, reptiles and mammals. Natural selection. Natural selection of neo-Darwinism operates through different reproduction, which states that best adapted organisms mature earlier and leave more progeny than which are less adapted. So, well-adapted organisms contribute more to gene pools. Then industrial melanism. Peppered moths are commonly found in England. Originally, they were light-colored moths living in the light-colored lichens that cover the trees. Their light color effectively camouflaged them from predators. During the Industrial Revolution, coal-powered plants emitted such both carbon, sulfur dioxide and soot. The sulfur dioxide killed off much of the lichen, while the soot darkened light-colored trees and stones. So light-colored peppered moths stood out brightly against the now darkened background and were picked off by birds. So remember sulfur dioxide. Mode of natural selection. Directional selection. Directional selection. Selection against one extreme. Short, medium, long. For one extreme trait against the another extreme. Long wiggly tail look like a snake and scare predators. The longer the tail, the more it looks like a snake. So directional selection. One extreme trait against the other extreme. Then stabilizing selection for moderate traits against both extremes. So will be a middle one. Then short tails mess up the cat's balance. Long tails drag on the ground. Medium tails are best. That is stabilizing selection. Next, disruptive selection. Disruptive in the selection against the mean. Both extremes against moderate traits. Short tails help keep predators from catching you on the ground. Long tails are good balance in the trees. Medium tails don't help. Stabilizing selection in great detail. Original population after natural selection. Robins typically lay 4 eggs, and example of stabilizing selection. Larger clutches may result in malnutrition chicks, while smaller clutches may result in no viable offspring. Then stabilizing selection removes extreme variance from a population and preserve immediate types. This reduces variation and tend to maintain the status quo for particular phenotypic character. Phenotypes fur color stabilizing selection. Then directional selection. Original population, population after natural selection. Directional selection, original population, population after natural selection. Light colored pepper moths are being camouflaged against the environment. Directional selection. Selection changes frequently of alleles in one direction. Genetic diversity is reduced. Knockout maladapted genotypes. Example, drug resistance in tuberculosis and HIV. Then agriculture, artificial selection of specific traits, sexual selection of a trait for bright plumage. This all comes under directional selection. Then disruptive selection, diversifying selection. Original population, population after natural selection. In a hypothetical population, grey and Himalayan grey and white rabbits were better able to blend with the rocky environment than white rabbits, resulting in diversifying selection. Disruptive selection happens in large populations with lots of pressure for the individuals to find advantage. Diversifying selection, original population, population after natural selection. In a hypothetical population, so we mentioned that. Disruptive selection example, in an environment with black and white rabbits, white rabbits lives camouflaged, grey rabbit dies seen by predator, black rabbit lives camouflaged. Disruptive selection happens in large population with lots of pressure for the individuals to find advantages or niches as they compete with each other for food to survive or partners to pass on their lineage. In an environment with deep and shallow flowers, short-beak hummingbirds lives. It can get pollen from flower. Medium-beak hummingbird cannot get pollen from flower. Long-beak hummingbirds lives can get pollen from flower. This is disruptive selection. Original population, population after natural selection. Both the extremes are selected in case of disruptive selection. Stabilizing the middle character will be taken. Pattern of evolution. Convergent evolution. Convergent evolution is a process by which two species develop similar features despite not sharing a recent common ancestor. Evolutionary biologists explain the similar characteristics as a product of natural selection. By sharing similar ecological niches, the two unrelated species benefit from developing the same functional characteristics. Then divergent evolution. In divergent evolution, two or more distinct species share a common ancestor from which they diverged. A common example is the modern elephant and woolly mammoth. They share a common ancestor and yet evolved into two different species. Another example is the dog, wolf, and the fox. Parent species, divergent evolution, convergent evolution, parallel evolution. Coevolution. The process of reciprocal evolution change that occurs between pairs of species or among groups of species as they interact with one another. The activity of each species that participates in the interaction applies selection pressure on the other. Parallel evolution is independent evolution of similar traits starting from a simpler ancestral condition. Frequently, this is the situation in most closely related lineages where several species respond to similar challenges in a similar way. Then parallel evolution. Parallel evolution describes two or more species that have continued to evolve similar characteristics even after their divergence from a common ancestor. Coevolution, two species evolve together due to their close relationships. When one evolves, the other evolves too. Example, birds and flowers, predators and prey. Divergent evolution, convergent evolution, or parallel evolution. Adaptive radiation. Adaptive radiation is a process in which organisms diversify rapidly from an ancestor species into a multitude of new forms, particularly when a change in the environment makes new resources available, alters biotic interactions, or opens new environmental niches. Original population allopatric, peripatric, parapatric, sympatric. Initial step of speciation. First, allopatric, barriers formation. Evolution of reproductive isolation. In isolation, new distant species after equilibration of new ranges. Then peripatric, original population, initial step of speciation, new niche entered, in isolated niche. Then parapatric, new niche entered, new in adjacent niche. Sympatric, genetic polymorphism within the population. Reproductive isolation. Reproductive isolation, which is central to the process of speciation, takes place because of reproductive barriers that are formed as a result of genetic, behavioral, or physical differences emerging between the new species. There are either pre-zygotic process, differences in culture behavior, non-compatible genitalia gametes that are unable to fertilize within species. Then geographical isolation. Speciation results from a splitting event in which a parent species is separated into two separate species, often as a result of geographical isolation or some driving force involving population separation. So separation could occur either due to physical barriers such as huge ocean expanses, mountain ranges, glaciers, deep river valleys, large rivers or deserts, or a substantial distance due to wider geographical range. Sympatric speciation. One by one we are going to learn different types of speciation. Sympatric speciation refer to a speciation process when two groups of identical species lived in identical geographical areas. They evolved in such a way that they could no longer interbreed. At that point, they have considered to be different species. Original population, isolation within population, speciation that act as a new species. It is also the reason to explain the formation of two or more genera from the same ancestral species in the same geographic area. Although this type of speciation can be seen in many different organisms such as apple, maggot, fly, bacteria, and cicad fish, it is hard to see when it occurs naturally. Allopatric speciation. When related populations are geographically separated by an intrinsic barrier, physical barriers such as topography, water or land, or unfavorable habitat, it results in the evolution of gradual genetic reproductive barrier between them. This results in the formation of separate species, and the process is called allopatric speciation. Allopatric speciation. Original population, geographic barrier, reproductive isolation, speciation. That is allopatric. You know that ALLO. When we closely observe that spelling of allopatric speciation, we could see a bridge. Bridge in the sense that double L looks like a bridge. So just imagine that as a separation. So that separation acts some kind of barrier. In place, speciation is only a matter of time. Darwin finches. Sympatric speciation within that. Allopatric with the help of that separation. Then allopatric speciation. Vicariant speciation. This is something which I think asked by some important questions from this part. So in vicariant speciation, sometimes called dichopatric or dumbbell speciation, a species is split into two large populations by the appearance of a barrier to dispersal, such as mountain building, changes in ocean circulation, continental rifting, glaciation, and climate-driven habitat fragmentation. So vicariant speciation corresponds to the geographic mode of speciation highlighted by Meyer in systematics, and since then it has been a steady accumulation of case studies that provide good evidence that the formation of geographic barriers is often involved in speciation. So most examples focus on closely related species found today. Peripatric speciation. Peripatric speciation. Peripatric speciation, also called a founder effect speciation, occurs when a few individuals establish a small subpopulation on the periphery of the main range of a species and evolve reproductive isolation. Peripatric speciation, also called the founder effect speciation, occurs when a few individuals establish a small subpopulation on the periphery of the main range of species and evolve reproductive isolation. Under this model, the more widespread species is considered parental or ancestral with respect to the small periphery. That is peripheric speciation, vicariant speciation. Parapatric speciation. In parapatric speciation, there is no specific extrinsic barrier or gene flow. The population is continuous, but nonetheless the population does not mate randomly. Individuals are more likely to mate with their geographic neighbors than with individuals in a different part of the population's range. In this mode, divergence may happen because of reduced gene flow within the population and varying selection pressures across the population's range. Speciation